Now I'll do more showing you each tool, because there's a lot of them, so I was thinking maybe I could just expand on that. So the really basic ones are the cube, and you can either draw it like this by drawing first one face and then expanding, and then you can still like move it around and select here the actual size and things like that, and then you click space to apply your tool. Or you could use Control, click and drag, and it will give you a perfect geometry. So for example, for the cube, if you do Control, click and drag, it will give you a perfect cube dropped in your scene. Same with the cylinder. You can either do this way, like drawing and then dragging and then modifying it as you go, or you could do Control, click and drag, and it will give you a perfect cylinder. Alright, after that, same with this one, you can just do it in the same way. Also, on these, notice, like I said earlier, there's parameters attached to it. So once you create it, you can change the parameters. So you can see the mount size here is 24. I can lower that. Same with the segments, and you'll have a lower resolution or higher resolution as needed, and you can change that on the fly. Same with the cube. Cube here is 1:1, and you can see that here, and you can change that if you want more resolution because you're planning on doing something different than just a cube. Donut shape, same thing, pretty much, and you can do any number of different operations to change that. Oh, this is crazy. This is crazy. I don't even know how this one works. Never use it. Usually I use this script where if you select an edge, little Q, I'll show you. That's from Von Ling. I'll give you the links to that. There's a quick pipe one. Oh, that's why. Okay, so this guy here has parameters. So the tube here, the radius is 50 meters. Let's just make it a little bit smaller, 50 centimeters. Okay, let's go back. Let's redo that. So let's do 10 centimeters for the tube, and then you can click wherever you want, and you can also do this, that kind of stuff. And the one I was talking about earlier is just select an edge. There's a script that does it for you. Quick pipe. Okay, and it's pretty useful when you want to do that kind of stuff. Right. This, I don't care for that. I'm going to bevel like we did earlier. Get rid of these two. So I have this selection, and then I do a quick pipe, and boom, you have that. So, and that is driven by these parameters. So if I do a little bit less, I'll do the other side just to show the difference. It's the kind of scripts that you can find on the internet that's helpful. Yeah. So after that, there's this one which is really cool and important. It allows you to draw polygons, because sometimes you might not want to have just a cube, or sometimes you need a little bit of a complicated shape. and this is drawn on the work plane. So if you look at the white grid, it's going to define the orientation of your polygon that you're building. See, I built this one on this side and this one on this axis. Changes. Okay. This one actually has all the move, rotate, and scale together. So I don't really use that. Most of the time I prefer to use the keyboard to call in for these functions. So move is what is it actually? It's W. Okay. So if I want to move something, I usually just select and then click move on my keyboard or on my extension keyboard. Same with rotate and scale. You do if you can set up your shortcuts, or at least start learning the basic ones like vertices 1, edges is 2, polygons 3, 4, 5. So if you have on your keyboard on the top the numbers 1, 2, 3, it's much easier, much quicker to, if you want to select edges, you click 2 and select this, and you're like, okay, no, now I want polygons, and you click 3, because you don't have to go back and forth all the time. It's so much time. It takes so much time to do that. And also the cool thing is it remembers your selection. So if you do an edge selection, let's say, and you do a little bevel, and do this, and then you go somewhere else, it will have remembered your selection on the different selection set. So if you have now polygons, you can use that and just go back to what was selected previously. Sometimes it's pretty useful. Now you can see here, it's not squarish like the other geometry, is because this is on a subdivision model. So subdivision basically adds more geometry to your already existing geometry, and it will smooth things depending on the amount of geometry you have. So this is using tab. You can go back and forth between the two, and that's pretty useful when you want to do some complex modeling where you don't want to see the edges, right? So we can definitely talk about that more later. Just because I saw it, I wanted to explain that. What's next? We do have subdivide here, which will add more geo. Bevel, you saw it. Extrude is basically an extrusion from the selected geometry. So if you want to have something that comes out like this, you could either do the bevel and do it like this, but this will follow the normal of the base surface. So let's look at that, show you a bit better. I'll do O, and that's for this visibility panel, which is pretty useful. You can find it, I think it's here. Yeah, on the viewport, little arrow, viewport settings. Yeah, viewport settings here. And you have a lot of options here. So I'm trying to show normals. Okay, so the normal of a surface is the perpendicular direction of that surface, right? So if you look at this sort of a circle, the normals are all going in that direction. So if you do a bevel, it will follow these normals, right? But you might not want that. You might want to have it go in only one direction, like this one, for example. That's when you use extrude, and then you can move that, and it doesn't follow the normal, it follows your own selected direction. You could also do it in a different way using bevel, clicking once and then move and it does the same. It's kind of it's a different tool, but it doesn't always need to. You can do things in a few different ways usually. So if we do, let's next one, because the next one is bridge. I like bridge, pretty cool. Bridge is really helpful if you have two surfaces that you want to join and that are the same number of edges. So I'll show you how it works. Select the tool and click, and it will bridge the two surfaces together. Now it needs to be the same amount of edges, otherwise it can't work, because then it doesn't know where to put the extra edge on one side. So usually if you're building something, you might want to, I don't know exactly, but let's see. I'll just do your quick examples. Yeah, so if I want to join these two faces, I could select them, and because they're the same, it's the same object, so they do have the same number of edges, I can directly just bridge, which is in my thing is Control-Shift-B. It's not that one, it's Control-Shift-B, and click, and it will bridge the two surfaces. So you can either do it with polygons or edges. Like if I want to do it with edges now, I'll delete these two because otherwise they'll stay in and it's useless geometry. So I select these two loops. They have 4 and 4 edges, and I can Control-Shift-B and click. Just bridge that. Pretty useful. No, not all the time, but just one of these. Are pretty cool. Also, if you have a surface, so let's do I'll do this just to show you. I'll delete some of that. So you're building whatever, and you have a surface that you built or that you extracted, like me, from something else, and you want it to thicken. You have to add some thickness to it. This tool, the thicken tool, then you can select the handles and modify like this. So in any direction, if you want to thicken in this direction, just go up, and we'll do that. And it will again follow the normals of the base selection that you have. So think about that. Sometimes it's not exactly what you want. Okay, Deform, like I said, I don't use it too much, but it just has to be, you know, looked at and checked. It's mostly, I think these are more for kind of sculpting in a way, but it's not necessarily. So all the time, like if you do twist here, it's a good way to sometimes get results that you can't just model really quickly. It will add some cool things. And also you have this gizmo that I'm using right now is a fall off gizmo, I guess I'll call it. The fall off is actually really interesting, and it's definitely something that you might want to look at, depending what you want to do. Let's say I want to move things, but not in a linear, not in a constant way. So if I move all of these polygons, each of them together like this, it just moves the surface and it doesn't change it. If I want to move this polygon more than this polygon, for example, in a linear fashion, I'll use this fall off here. There's a few different options, and the gizmo comes up, and you can then modify it. So I said I want to move this one more than this one, and this linear fall off is showing you like this is going to have more effect, and it's going to slowly fade towards there in a linear fashion. So if I do this, now the move tool is constrained to this fall off, and it's super interesting what you can do with it. You have to kind of play with it and get used to it. But once you applied it, you can always move it around and oops. And it will keep like in real time changing what you did. So for some more maybe organic stuff or more complicated geometry, you might want to look at that. There's a few different ones. It's the cylinder. Wait, oops. I'll try that. The cylinder, and it shows you. Oops, not that. And here you have the fall off gizmo here that you can move separately. And if you do, I'm scaling everything up, but it's only going to scale what's inside the cylinder here. So if I move it, then it will see it will apply around that gizmo that I just moved. So quite cool stuff. You can do a lot of things to your geometry with that you might have trouble just building by yourself with using the basic tools. Okay, so there's many of them. Might try it and just try them. It's all says what it does. The duplicate ones I showed you quickly before, but there's some more that I can maybe do. Mirror, for example, really useful. If you select it, click, it will apply, it will mirror the geometry that you have selected along a certain axis. So in this instance, it's a x-axis. This is the default apparently, and then you can move that plane that's on the x-axis right now wherever you want. So you can either, like as usual, you can do your own thing. So for example, if you want to have it around the origin of the world, which is this intersection between these two axes, you can see the darker lines here. This is the 0 basically. So you can do that.